right, so yesterday we had our debate wrap-up, and the general consensus seems to be that things went all right for Ron Paul, and he was treated fairly. But sadly, CNN appears to be afraid of using its own polls for its own post-game analysis. When reporting post-debate, they instead used data from a National Journal poll given to political insiders. Data taken from 5 other major poll sources post-debate showed Dr. Paul at 31.07% at Fox News, 83% at CNBC, 87% at WePolls.com. Vortex effect might have been a little biased there with the audience, 93.31%. But even at CNN's own poll, 78%. Okay, so let's be fair. The online polls can be skewed like any other form of polling, but here's the skewing that CNN came up with. There you go. Romney at 51%, down to Paul at 0. How did they get away with this? They didn't invent the numbers, as they might as well have. Instead, they reported on a National Journal online poll that had all of 54 votes. And according to the Baltimore Sun, it was reported that Ron Paul clearly won audience favor in New Hampshire. An analysis of audience reaction shows Paul was applauded twice as much as any other candidate on stage. Throughout the 2-hour debate, Paul was applauded 11 times. Romney, Bachmann, and former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty were each applauded 5 times. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich and businessman Herman Cain were each applauded 4 times. Senator Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum was applauded the least amount of times, 3. Again, 0%. Really? CNN? Well, hey, maybe this can justify a CNN shutout of Ron Paul for the next go-round. Clearly, since 2-term governors who leave their states with billion-dollar surpluses, Gary Johnson of New Mexico, don't qualify as viable debate participants. Ron should be silenced too, right? Yes, America, you see how this works? 54 votes to determine the frontrunners. This is how they are selective in the narrative of the Communist News Network, ably coming to the aid of their lovable, freedom-hating, big government Republican, Mitt Romney. This is why we at RT America probably need to host our own GOP president.
There's a big report at the Daily Poll. We've also got this linked up on Infowars.com. Video of it actually happening. CNN Disinfo refuses to use their own poll and scores of other scientific polls that showed Ron Paul winning at 79% and higher. And they used some private fake poll they did with 54 respondents to show Ron Paul with 0 votes, and that's what they put out on the news, but only in the fine print did it show that it was only 54 votes. Romney with 51%, Bachmann with 21, Pawlenty with 9, Gingrich with 7, Herman Cain with 4, Santorum with 4, Paul with 0. So on national news, they're saying, oh, Ron Paul's 0, not telling you it was some internet poll they posted where nobody could see it, and that their own real poll, 79% voted. So that's how they do sleight of hand. That needs to be investigated. I tell you, they are so incredibly disingenuous, and there's video of it, there's screenshots of it, and then there's screenshots and video of all the other polls, CNBC, Fox, you name it. And CNBC did the same thing. They showed 54 votes with Romney with 51. In fact, it was a CNBC poll that CNN used, some internet poll that I guess no one even was able to see. I mean, we put a poll up on Infowars, and it gets 5,000 to 6,000 in a day. But the CNBC poll had 54 votes, and that's what CNN used to be specific, showing Ron Paul with 0. When their own CNN poll that we have video of and a screenshot showed him winning by 79. That is how desperate the system is starting to get right now. The headline, video, CNN, Disinfo, refuses to use own poll, Ron Paul win at 79%, reports 0. I mean, whether you like Ron Paul or not, I happen to love him. This is the deception we're talking about. This is what the mainstream media does, and that's why the mainstream media more and more is not the mainstream media. In fact, it's a paper tiger. The top shows on MSNBC might have 1 million. Most of their shows have 300,000, 400,000. That's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Mainline talk radio in big cities like New York or L.A., the top radio shows that are only on in those cities can have upwards of 500,000 listeners conservatively in an hour. and they're a couple $100, $300, $400 for a 1-minute ad. And then meanwhile, the same 1-minute ad on MSNBC is 10, 15, 20,000. Again, it's all a fraud. It's a scam. It's a total and complete joke. All right, I'm starting to rant on that issue instead of finishing up with the whole TSA situation.
It's not about justice. It's not about agenda. It's not about mobilizing people. It's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.